Welcome back to another podcast episode where we help aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. So I'm actually starting a bit of a new series where I want to jump into coding adjacent positions and just other positions that aren't like traditional front-end, back-end engineer, and kind of just see what they're like, what it takes to get into them. Are they a stepping stone into more traditional positions, or, like what's the day-to-day like? You might find that some of these other positions that you can get into when you do learn how to code, maybe you enjoy them. So this is actually the first episode of this series. We're going to be diving into what it takes to become an HTML email developer and what it's like to even be one. So, Ivan, I appreciate you coming on. You're my first guinea pig, but yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So let's dive into it. First of all, before we do, who are you? You want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm not the traditional person who'd be in web development. I was originally a PC tech for 20 years, but I had some health issues, so I had to take a desk job. And after I had heart surgery, I landed a job as a web content editor. And then I got sick of doing that, so I decided to take a job as an email developer. I kind of accidentally fell into email development.
Okay. You've been with email development for a while now, so something caught your interest with it.
To be honest with you, it was the money.
Okay.
Around the same time that I had heart issues, a friend of mine down in Texas, he was a trucker, and he wanted to get into web development. So while I was a webmaster, he learned HTML, CSS, and he landed his first job as an email developer. 2 years in, he was making six figures. And we were talking, and he said, "You have to get into this." He just honestly said, "Listen, you have to become an email developer because I was trying to become a front-end developer, and I still struggle with JavaScript." But he's like, "You already have the skills to do this. You know HTML, you know CSS. You've worked with a marketing department, and if I can do this, you could do this." So, we both were watching a YouTube channel online, and I bought an email course on HTML email development. And when I bought that course, the gentleman walked me through how to become a HTML email developer. Essentially, he taught you how to create emails, what projects you needed, what software you needed, which was Photoshop. After that, in the evenings, in my current job, I went on Fiverr and started applying the skills. And I wanted to make sure when I applied for my first email developer position, even though I had experience as a webmaster, web content developer, I didn't have any email experience. So I did about 25 jobs, got a couple of good positive reviews. Like most of them were like 4 out of 5 stars, but all of the reviews were good. So I had experience. When I also applied, I also started a blog where I started talking about email development and my journey. So when I applied for my first position, even though I had no experience, I had a blog talking about email development. I had some experience. I built a couple of emails for small businesses in Philadelphia area. Was a coffee shop and a beer company. Both of them declined it. They liked the design, but they're like, they went with somebody else. But I still had that in my portfolio. And by them being real businesses, when I went to the interview, I just told them they went with another designer. They looked at them, they were responsive, but they just went with somebody else's design. They thought it was better. I took about maybe 2 to 3 months to learn all the skills, and I started applying. And I kept on, no one would call me. But I kept on applying. I went to Google and I did a email alert for email developer remote jobs, email developer jobs in my area. And every day I was just checking to see what email developer jobs I could get. And I applied to them all. I didn't care if I had experience or not. I didn't care if they said I had 10 years experience, because one of the things I've learned about applying for jobs, they have ridiculous requirements. Like some jobs, they'll be like, oh, you need to know JavaScript, React, Python. And really, to be an HTML email developer, 9 times out of 10, you're using HTML and inline CSS. You're not even putting your CSS in a separate file like you would do if you did front-end development. And I'll explain that a little bit later. But kept on applying. I saw a job on Craigslist. And that I thought was a little bit sketchy. But I did some research. They were a real company. And believe it or not, I got my first job through Craigslist.
Wow.
Which was weird. Really weird for me. Like, it was a 100% remote position. And the salary was pretty much what I was making at my other job, but it was 100% remote. And talked to the company. They're a little bit weird. They're a digital design agency, and they did a lot of emails for like Android developer apps, authors, like small businesses. And what they would do is every month I would get like a 2 gig file with like images for like maybe 50 to 100 campaigns that were going to run throughout that month. And essentially what I would do is I would just build them. They gave me the HTML templates, and I would just build them, upload them to email service provider like Mailchimp, Aweber. There's one that begins with a K that I can never pronounce. I butcher it. Salesforce, for some of the bigger companies that were using that. Campaign Monitor. So that gave me a lot of experience doing email development on my first job. And also it allowed me to learn about marketing, because I just wanted to know how they were making their money. So I kind of learned the marketing aspect, which helped me later on down the line with freelancing.
Okay. This position that was at Craigslist is a salary position. Were you still freelancing on the side while you were doing that?
No.
Okay.
When I got the position, it was enough to pay me a yearly salary. So every month I got paid. Like my first job, I was making a little bit about 50. They paid me about 52K, give or take, 55. Like it was enough to keep me going. Like I said, I thought they were sketchy, but they took taxes out. They were registered with the state. Everything was above board. Like even though it was on Craigslist, it was a legit company. And after I worked there for a year, then I went to another digital design agency because I wanted to get some more experience. There was a company in Jersey that made me an offer. It was a salary position. The reason I took that one is honestly health insurance. With my other position, I was paying health insurance out of pocket, and they had better benefits.
Okay. So was the first one, sorry, remind me again, was the first one like agency work or was it for a company and a product?
Both jobs were digital agencies. And what I mean by digital agencies, my first job, they did stuff for like Android developers, authors. Right. The second company in New Jersey, they were also a digital agency, and most of their work was for casinos. I am in another position now where it's I am a Salesforce email developer, and in that position, I work for a financial institution, and they send out emails through Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And it's the same skills, but I'm doing more for their corporate marketing department where they have monthly campaigns that they send out to different customers. And Salesforce Marketing Cloud is an enterprise level email marketing system. And with that, you make more money. You do have to go through some training, which I paid for myself last year, and that allowed me to land that job. And my day-to-day in any of these positions.
Let's hold up on the day-to-day. Okay. I got a few questions before we jump into it. Actually, a lot of questions.
Cool.
So specifically with, so feel free to say if you don't want to share it, but with Fiverr, you mentioned I think you did about like 25 jobs. Did you have like a total revenue that you recorded towards the end of that?
I think it was about like maybe 750, might have been $1,000. I'll be honest with you. The way I did Fiverr, I do not recommend anyone do unless you're looking for a job.
Okay.
Because I charge the lowest amount possible. Because here's the deal with Fiverr. Fiverr is, it's about price. And if you're starting out, you have zero rating, 0 jobs on it, Fiverr, you have to offer your services very cheaply. And I was offering, I'll build an email for you for $5 to $10. I eventually moved it up to like 30 and 50, but like the first, let's say 10, 15 jobs were like $5 to $10. Then I got a couple of other jobs where I was able to charge like $100, $50. But my goal was not about the money. I had a weird strategy, which was, since I had no experience in this, I need to have some social proof. And to me, a portfolio, like my portfolio was, okay. Not gonna lie to you. But I know people want to see proof of some type that you worked. And Fiverr was the easiest way to do it. I tried Upwork. And I did do like maybe 2 or 3 jobs on Upwork, but on Upwork, I have to fill out job proposal every time. And I really wasn't trying to do that. With Fiverr, you just create you create a gig. And once you create the gig, people, their algorithm or whatever it is, will look at it. Especially if you knew, they kind of promote you a little bit more until they realize nobody's hiring hiring you because your price is probably too high. So I just put a low price that is like, hey, you got $5 to $10, take a chance on me. That was my whole purpose. I've got $5 to $10, take a chance on me. And people were like, other people on the platform were charging $25, $50. And let's give this guy a shot. Like, what am I losing? And I believe they have a refund policy, so you get your money back. But my whole purpose was, before I applied for the job, I wanted to have social proof. And Fiverr was the easiest way to be like, on my resume, I wrote, I think, hurt emails, and I listed myself as a contractor, and I put freelance email developer on Fiverr. And during the interview, they asked me, and I told them, go to Fiverr, look me up, and they saw my social proof. It was right there.
So that's a really creative strategy, and I love it. I honestly do. Like, the initiative to do something like that, because like you said, you're not doing it essentially for the additional income, because you had to price it low, is for social proof. So, you know, when I talk to people and I even give advice, I usually recommend, I want to hear your opinion about this, but I usually recommend people that are going into like traditional front end or back end development, stay away from freelancing, especially in the beginning, because usually the complexity of the projects that you get initially, people don't really, you don't have that social proof yet, right? So you're not getting very challenging and complex projects to grow as a software engineer. I feel like, I mean, when you don't have to dive deep into JavaScript and heavy programming, I mean, there's still a lot of knowledge with CSS, but I feel like you probably can get a jump start on actually building things with some basic HTML and CSS knowledge. And I can see, like, I would almost see myself recommending something like Fiverr to give a bit of that social proof with email development. Do you feel like you would have taken that same strategy if you would have gone heavy into software engineering? Would you have gone the freelance route?
Probably so.
Okay.
Maybe not software engineering, but if I was going for like maybe front-end web development, I would. And my logic is, you can still go onto Fiverr and build landing pages. That'll give you social proof as a front-end web developer, because everybody needs a landing page. Most marketing departments, like at my last job, the front-end web developers, they were doing that all day for customers, like building various landing pages. So I would, if I was going for a entry-level web developer or front-end web developer and I needed social proof, I'd probably do something like maybe a landing page. I wouldn't do anything heavy, but I would probably do like maybe something that just shows, okay, I can do something basic that would add value to your company.
Okay. Do you feel like your freelance work made you more hireable for agency type companies?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is, when you're doing digital agency work, you're pushing out emails all day. Like, you're pushing out like 8 to 10 emails all day. You're editing a HTML template that's been tested, but you have a queue of work that you have to get done by a certain amount of time. And by me doing the freelancing versus doing my own project where I could take a year to do, this person wants it done in 3 days. So I have to figure out how to create their email within 3 days. And by having like a time constraint, I'm able to apply that to digital agencies, because knowing how to manage time If you can manage it as a freelancer, where they give you more like 3 days, you're not going to be able to do it in a digital agency where they want all the work done within a day. That needs to go to QC. And if you have errors, you have to fix them and then send it back to QC. So you have to have time management.
Okay. Do you feel like your blog was helpful in you finding that first position?
No, not really. But it did prove that I could build a basic website. Like, it's a live WordPress blog. So it proved to them that I know how to set up WordPress. I know how to do basic things in WordPress, which most digital agencies use in some shape or form. Because the last 2 agencies I've worked at, they were doing emails, WordPress, Drupal.
Okay.
Drupal is like 5%, but it was WordPress, emails, and a little bit of Drupal. But yeah, so
WordPress, I mean, positions just using WordPress, they're very prevalent. And that's why I'm going to be bringing on at least one WordPress developer to dive into it. But I think people underestimate WordPress knowledge that want to break into the industry. I think it is helpful. So I guess maybe they tested you in different ways. With the first 3 positions, how did they test you? Did they give you any technical challenges? Did they ask questions? Did they just look at your code?
For the first 2 positions, they gave me an email. Essentially, what they did is they gave me a PDF document of what the email should look like. And then they gave me the assets, which are the images that I should use. Like, I'll give you an example. The first job, they gave me an email for a game. They gave me an email for a game that pretty much said, hey, we're launching a new game with a button that says click here to claim like 5,000 points, and it had an image. They gave me 2 days to build it. So what I did is I went home, wrote the code, uploaded the images to I think it's called IMGG. So the images will be live, but it's like a image hosting service that I use. And then I tested it in Email on Acid. Email on Acid is a QA tool that allows you to see what emails look like on multiple email clients, like iPhone, all the versions of iPhone, Gmail, all the different versions of Outlook, from Outlook 10 to 2019. I think they've got like Thunderbird email, or it's an email that begins with a T that's not really used here, it's used in other countries, but they run the gamut. And you put your code in Email on Acid, and it'll analyze it, and it'll give you what it looks like on that device. So if there's any issues, like Outlook is one of the things that you have to code a certain way using ghost tables. And what that is it's like a Microsoft Office like little code snippet that you put in front of your tables. So when it goes into Microsoft Office, it won't break your table. There's a not Substack. Oh, crap. If you type in Outlook conditional statements, you'll be able to pull it up. But among email developers, that's one of the things that we use to make sure everything works in Outlook.
Okay. It sounds like Outlook is the Internet Explorer of email development.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
Well, so with my first position, it was definitely more traditional front end, but I remember, so Content would create the emails, and I remember, I don't know if she offloaded it onto front end team or what, but I remember thinking, this is kind of ridiculous that I don't really know all the outcomes depending on the email client. I remember finding a tool, and it made me realize there are a lot more email clients than I thought there were. And it's very easy for your email to go from looking like this perfect masterpiece to something that's unreadable almost, depending on the email client. It's, I guess I have empathy for you having to deal with that.
The good thing is, once you have a good email template that you've tested, like everything that we do, we're using templates that we've tested. It's rare that you create something from scratch, because most companies, they want their emails laid out in a specific format, and you build your template off that, and you test the crap out of it. And when you test the crap out of it, it's going to work, because after that, all you're doing is editing text, just putting in the URL for the images, and that's it. Like my day-to-day as far as emails, I'm mostly replacing image tags and replacing text and emailing copies of it to myself, and also testing into like Email on Acid. Litmus is another one.
I think that's the one I used.
Yeah, Litmus is the one that most companies use, but it depends. Like at my company now, we use Litmus. At the financial institution, we use Litmus, but at the other two companies, we were using Email on Acid.
Okay.
Litmus is like number one. Email on Acid is number two. Honestly, they both do the same thing, but Email on Acid is a little bit cheaper.
Okay. That's good to know. Okay, so essentially you pretty much have a template you're just sticking to. Once you have that template and you've kind of revised it to try to be compatible across different email clients, you're just replacing text and images and minor things like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have to upload it to the email service provider like Mailchimp, and we use that to schedule when the email is going to go out. Some email service providers are simple to use. Others, like Salesforce, they're beast. So you have to take specialized training in order to use them. Like if you're first starting out for a email developer position, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Adobe Marketo, and Oracle Eloqua, you're going to need special training. But those are if you've been doing this for a year or two, you can apply for those positions. But the positions I applied for, they were using Mailchimp, Campaign Monitor, which are very easy to use.
Mailchimp gets really expensive very quickly, doesn't it?
Yes, and I think it might have gotten more expensive since they, I think they did a merger recently. I'm not sure if it was Inute or TurboTax, but it might have been QuickBooks. I'm not sure, but they did a merger within the past 6 months, and I use Mailchimp for some of the stuff I do for freelancing, and I noticed my prices went up slightly, not much, but I have a funny feeling they're about to go up again. but I'm not 100% sure. I'll wait and see.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I don't have an email list. People keep telling me I should build one. But again, I hear email marketing converts pretty damn well. And I think that tradition still holds true. I think it's like, maybe you could like tell me an industry secret. I had heard that 1% to 2% conversions from an email being sent out is actually really good.
Yes. And the reason that is because, okay, and this is just from me doing some freelancing for clients in the past year. If I was to spend their money on social media versus email marketing, for every dollar I spend, you're going to probably make $40 back. Versus social media, where you might make, I'm not sure what the number is. It's either $5 or $10, but I've tested this, and most of the people who I'm doing email marketing, building their emails and helping them do basic, very rudimentary email marketing, they're seeing huge returns versus trying to advertise on social media. Like they're getting more contracts because they're able to bring people into a process and send emails telling them about themselves. It's called like a welcome series, where you send a series of emails and you tell your potential customer about yourself, and you're slowly giving them reasons to why they should buy from you.
I do hear that's pretty strong, and because I've watched different YouTubers, and I just try to keep this knowledge just in the back of my head, but kind of like a drip series of like 3 to 5 emails can be very, very effective at warming your leads up.
Yes.
I feel like I'm missing out, honestly, by not, even just with my podcast and my content, I feel like I could benefit from something like that. It's something I probably will look into. But yeah, I mean, email marketing is a lot more powerful than people realize.
And honestly, it's one of the reasons why they need email developers. Because I'll be honest with you, no one really wants to do it because you're doing HTML4 mostly. Like you can do HTML5, but I'll be honest with you, the past few places that I've worked and every interview that I've been on, they're mostly using HTML4, and you have to use inline CSS because with different email clients, if you use an external file, it's going to automatically flag you as spam or trying to do something fishy. And that's probably because back in the day with spam, they were doing all sorts of weird stuff with JavaScript and external files. So to where now, just a basic security protocol, they're not allowing external files. Everything has to be inside your email. Like anything that's linking to an external file isn't going to work unless it's like an image. But yeah, they're like Outlook will flag it, Gmail, you go down the board.
That's good to know. That's definitely good advice. I remember setting up my email account a long time ago. It was essentially, that wasn't the issue, but it was more of authenticating my emails and kind of just proving to the external email client that it came from me. I remember all my emails for like 3 months straight and no one was responding to me. It all went into spam, and I figured that out later.
Yeah, that process, usually for the first month when you're setting up an email, you have to go through kind of like an authentication process with all of the email service providers like Gmail. I forget what Apple uses, but pretty much they have to trust you. So what I tell people to do when they're first setting up their email is send out basic emails. Don't send out emails that have like spam words like free. Make sure they're very clear cut, very simple emails that won't get flagged. After like maybe the first month, then your emails won't go to spam. But the first month, they don't trust you. Like when I started email lists for clients, that's what happened. And after the first month, they started going to regular emails. Like the first month, I just sent out basic emails that avoid words like free, discount. Like you can Google list of spam words in email, and also depending on what service provider you're using, they will flag those words and tell you, yeah, this is kind of spammy. Well, let me rephrase this: the more expensive ones like Salesforce, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, they will definitely tell you if it's spammy.
Okay. That's really good advice. I wish I would have known that. I did, when I was trying to figure things out, I did get some of that advice, and even just trying to send emails to your other Gmail accounts and stuff like that. And if it doesn't get reported as spam, I don't know if that advice is effective. But I feel like there are a lot of different tricks. Like if you're setting up a new email address, especially with a new domain, you probably should look some of that stuff up to make sure that, like I didn't know about the month thing, but I know there are a lot of different things you can do to try to avoid that spam filter and gain that trust. So go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, I was going to end with that good advice. I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
One I've been wanting to ask. So what specifically should people learn to have the technical skills to be hireable as an email developer? And, there are probably like a lot of different HTML concepts, et cetera. You don't have to go through everything, but like, what are some core things?
Well, the basic core skills that you need, you definitely need to know HTML, in particularly HTML tables, because everything that you're going to be building, you need to know how to build a table in HTML. You need to know the table, TR, TD. You also need to know media queries. Different media queries, you need to know how to write them. You also need to know inline CSS, which essentially everything with front-end web development, you throw out the window, and everything is inline CSS and HTML and media queries. You do not need a JavaScript. Some jobs use JavaScript, but I think it's for something else. But I've been doing it for like maybe 2.5 years, and I've never used JavaScript. So don't use JavaScript. You also need to know some basic Photoshop. You need to know how to crop an image. Photoshop is the tool that you will be using. You also need to know at least one email service provider. The ones that I tell people, learn Mailchimp. Mailchimp is free. You can sign up for free, and I think it's free up until a certain amount of users. Learn how to upload a list to Mailchimp. And what I mean by a list is you have a CSV file, an Excel file, and it'll have a column with like first name, last name, email address. Just create a simple Excel file with like maybe 5 names and 5 email addresses. They could be fictional. Learn how to upload it. Learn how to schedule an email in Mailchimp. Learn how to paste your code into Mailchimp. You can learn all of that through like some basic YouTube videos, the Mailchimp part. Learn how to test in email on acid or litmus. So after you've built your email, build several emails. What I tell people is build several emails. And when you build several emails, take a weekend where you tell your wife, well, what I did in particular is I told my wife, family, or your significant other, who that may be, don't bother me for the weekend. Sign up for a trial to Litmus or Email on Acid. They give you 7 days. During that weekend, test the crap out of your emails and fix whatever issues you have. That gives you another 4 days during the week to, if you still didn't fix it, to try to fix them. So you have like a 7-day window. Once you do that, put your portfolio up. Start applying to jobs. Get a decent resume. And when you write your resume, focus on email development. The one thing that I've seen over the years from interviewing like email developers and being on the other side is the hiring manager, they really want to see that you want to do HTML email developments. Even if you want to use this as a stepping stone for front end, don't tell them that. Just have a separate email portfolio. Like if you're going to apply for a front end later, have 2 portfolios. Have one that's strictly emails, have one that's for front end or whatever you plan on doing. But the one that you present to them, make sure it has at least 3 emails. Probably you want to go through your emails that you have in your inbox and look for like a promotional email, like something from the Gap. Where else? Gap watch company, clothing lines, and build those emails. The emails that I recommend is build like a fashion email. Build something nice. The other thing I would say is have your significant other look at the email, especially if they shop, which my wife does. She does a lot of shopping. So I had her look at the emails. It's like, no, I don't like that. You need to do a different color scheme. Like I have bad taste. I'm not gonna lie, but my wife has better taste than I do. So whenever I build something, I always ask her to look at it, and she'll be like, "Good," or "No, you need to do this, this, and this," and take your advice. Like have someone else look at your emails and apply. And when you're looking for HTML email developer jobs, look for email developer as a job title, email marketing specialist. What else is it? Yeah, email developer and email marketing specialist. And when you look at the email marketing specialist, they're going to say you need to have years of marketing experience. Apply anyway. Because the thing that most people don't understand is that they have marketing people who handle the marketing side. They also need someone technical to do the coding because the marketing person isn't going to touch the code. And just apply. You're going to get rejected, but just apply always.
I like it. Yeah, that's really good advice. I appreciate you running us through that. couple things to note. I love the idea of having a separate portfolio for email marketing specifically, email development specifically. It's like, whether it's front end or back end, I think some people have this illusion that like they need to be a full stack developer that knows everything, and it's not tailored to the specific position, right? And so they have this illusion that put full stack on your resume, apply to this front end position. But no, like this is a way for front end development. Like companies want people that are interested in front end development, that have worked on a lot of front end development projects. And so your resume is going to be tailored to front end. And then if you want to apply to back end, just make sure it's tailored to back end, because those resumes are going to look very different. And so, it sounds like that's the same with email development specifically. I like it. There was one more question I had. Shoot. That's okay. I don't remember it. It doesn't matter. So overall, I think that's a really good advice for people that are kind of just wanting to get into email development. Never mind. It's not important. I think the resume one and showcasing your projects is really important. I guess I have one more question.
Okay.
What type of person would enjoy email development? Like, how do you know that's what you should focus on, right? Because I just DM'd and emailed like 15 different coding adjacent positions. So there are a lot of options out there. So how do you know you're even going to be interested in this?
To be honest with you, I have no idea.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. The reason I got into it was my friend was making money, and he was a truck driver, and he was making six figures. He's like, if you get into this, you're going to make six figures. And he's right. And he's making more than that. And this year I'm going to hit that number. And I don't think I would have been able to hit like six figures as a salary if I was a front end developer so quickly, and the reason being is that the front end, there's so much you have to do to get there. Like there is a steep learning curve. Like literally within like 2 years, I was knocking on six figures. This year I've got past it, and technically I've only known my basic skills are HTML, CSS, knowing Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, and a little SQL. And I rarely use SQL versus HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, and the list is ugly.
Yeah, that's interesting. The ramp up in salary definitely surprised me that quickly. But you're right. I mean, for the time investment, email development, there's not as big of a learning curve, not even close. I mean, like HTML and CSS is like the starting point for jumping into a front-end engineering position. And you have to think about it. It's like you don't have to be in love with any position. I do think you at least need to enjoy some of the problems that you're tackling, because most people will give up if they don't. And maybe like another high-paying position is where you should be aiming for. I think people should seriously consider that. But I mean, for the time investment, the salary ramp-up time sounds pretty good. Sounds like you can at least tolerate your position and you enjoy it enough to keep it going. Yeah.
I mean, and I work on like cool projects. Like I've worked on stuff for national car companies. I haven't been able to drive them, would like to, but
sure.
Like I worked on stuff for like motorcycles that so I'm building, like, to me, I'm building cool stuff. Like when I was at one design agency, I was building emails to let people know major performers were coming to town. like major events. Like it's a lot of it is tedious, but you're doing cool stuff. Like you're doing like the emails. I personally think that they're cool, and over time, I learned to like this, because otherwise I would have left and went the front end development route. But I'm going to probably be email. I'm going to do this probably till I retire.
Okay.
Because to me, it's a cool factor that I really can't explain, but like I'm building a lot of cool stuff that I probably may not be able to build for as a front end engineer. Like I've built stuff for some really nice car companies. I can't say their names, but they're the cars that you'd be like, whoa.
That is pretty cool. I like that. Well, I mean, it sounds like you found your gig. That's awesome. Seriously. A lot of people struggle to find that. And we dove into quite a bit. I think this is going to be pretty helpful. I think that's all the questions I have. Before we wrap it up, was there anything else that you wanted to add?
Not that I can think of.
We covered a lot.
Yeah.
Honestly. Okay. I love it. So I appreciate that you definitely have an interest in this, and that, you've landed a few different email developer positions. We went into details that I didn't even expect to get into, honestly. But yeah, so definitely consider this option. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a chance to kind of shout out anything you want to shout out. People want to reach out to you, maybe questions or other things you want to advertise. What do you want to share?
You can reach out to me on YouTube. If you do, I haven't heard. I have a YouTube channel that talks about email development. If you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Ivan Hurd. I'm the only one who's an email developer. And if you have any questions, I can probably answer them there.
All right, cool. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
Ivan Hurd.
Okay.
It is my first and last name. It's not original.
No, I mean, keeping it simple. It's good for branding. I like it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had. Let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. Feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think about the position. We're going to be exploring different positions, but it sounds like email development specifically, the ramp up time is much lower, especially for the amount that you might be getting paid for. But yeah, let me know what you think about it. But Ivan, seriously, thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.